Missions fail. That's just a fact sometimes when playing RP-1, and in this episode it happens in multiple ways. But learning to safely abort when things don't go as planned is part of what you got to do. This allowed me to quickly restage vessels, pushing both crewed and uncrewed missions higher than ever before. Let's get started. Last episode saw the inaugural launch of my U-2 high-altitude jet, which completed the first of the X-plane stratospheric research contracts, requiring it to cruise at an altitude above 22 kilometers. After its successful return, I went into mission control and noted that the second of these contracts requires an altitude above 25 kilometers, and after some testing in simulation mode, I determined that this altitude was just within the abilities of this aircraft. So, upon recovery, the U-2 was rolled back out onto the runway for a second flight. So I have disabled the steering on the rear landing gear. So the only steering I have is with the rudder now when it's on the ground, and that makes the steering far less twitchy than what it was before. Let's take off. Come on, up we go. There we go. And the other thing I did is I just pitched this a little bit more up. I moved this landing gear just a little bit more into the fuselage. Here, let's engage the cruise control. And the reason for that was simply to have it pitched up a little higher on the runway. And I've also been noticing there's been a couple of times where I've landed where I've hit this landing gear first, and that causes a funny bounce. I suppose I could also get into fiddling with the spring strength and all that stuff, but I'm a little nervous about that. Why are you like on a cocky angle like that? You're still turning. Okay, we're still turning. Okay, you do that. Alright, and the contract is Stratospheric Research Part 2. Same as the last episode, except this time we have to get up to 25 kilometers. Still be subsonic, below 300 meters per second. That won't be a problem with this plane. And hold level flight for 5 minutes and then come back and land. That is the entire mission. And this is right at the edge of what this plane is capable of. I played with the idea of getting in here and changing the fuselage parts to aluminum stringers rather than straight up aluminum, but I have decided that this plane can do it. So rather than go through the work of upgrading the plane, we're going to go with what we got. Here, we'll lower this a little bit. I don't like this. Why don't you get on your heading? Whoa, 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 whoa. What is going on here? The heading in the autopilot has somehow changed. So I wrestled this back manually to its 90-degree heading and then leveled off the roll. Okay, that looks good. Okay, and now engage that. It really likes that jaunty slant. I don't get it. Okay, I'm just going to leave it. Forget it. Let it do what it's going to do. That is weird. I don't know what is going on. I'm not sure if what is happening has anything to do with this, but once 20 minutes into the flight, I realized I had a problem. We're now 300 kilometers from the KSC. We're going to have... Oh, no, we're going to run out of fuel. Was this not full? Okay, we gotta... Wait. Cut fuel. I didn't pay enough attention. Did it not... okay, we're gonna head back. Let's get back to 10. I don't know what happened there. That is strange. I don't know if I started with not full fuel tanks. I flew for longer in simulation, so I don't know quite what happened there. Okay, we're going to get down to altitude. We're going to click on the waypoint. We're going to... Oh, wait, here. There, and then there. Even while editing now, I don't understand what happened. A few minutes ago in this video, I showed a clip of this plane in simulation. There, it was over 40 minutes into the flight with much more fuel remaining. Regardless of the cause, getting Kenneth and the U2 back home is now the priority. I soon decrease downward pitch to extend this glide as far as I can to conserve what little fuel I have left. Ditching in the water in RP-1 is really sketchy, and with a plane like this there's no way it's going to hold together, and I think I would much prefer just bailing the pilot, but of course that's going to mean losing the plane, which I don't want to do. I don't want to build another one. Right now the hangar is busy building the X5, so I really the next series in the X-planes, and that's for a high altitude thing that's actually require contracts of X-planes, so I really am kind of loath. If this thing gets lost, it's going to be a while till I build it again, because I got higher priority items. But I can only stay aloft for so long without using engines, and eventually, with the speed control set to 100 meters per second, the engine came on. Okay, we're giving a teeny tiny amount of throttle, just to keep it at 100 meters per second as we make our way down. I continued in this mode until, at 25 kilometers from the runway and with about 40 seconds of fuel left, I cut the throttle, and soon thereafter took over from the autopilot. Down, 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 down. We're halfway along the runway. You got to get down. Okay, brakes. Oh shit! It popped up again. Okay, throttle up. It's not what I needed to see. Okay, no. What we're going to do is we're going to clear the runway. We're going to land past it. I think lowering that gear might not have been the bestest plan. Okay, we're down. I think the problem is that when it drops down onto that rear landing gear, it pitches up and wants to take off again. I'll just have to land at a lower speed next time. By the way, if this episode had a theme, it would be finding ways to botch my first attempts at missions, so you might want to get used to this. But right now, Kenneth's back and the plane's intact, so I'll be able to give this another go in just a little bit. But first, I want to jump back to just before this mission, where I was taking care of a few housekeeping items. First, I was in the administrative building looking at my leaders and contractors. These were chosen a while back with an emphasis on saving funds because, at the time, I was running a deficit budget, but now I'd rather put my energy towards researching technology. Removing any of these comes with a reputation hit, and in the end, I figured any major changes weren't worth it, as I could take the money I saved and just use it to hire more researchers. I did make one minor change, removing McDonnell Aircraft in favor of OKB-276 Kuznetsov. I'm sure I just butchered that. This lost me a boost on the integration of cockpit parts, but got me a 10% bonus on flight research speed. I also gained back 1% on my program budget, but will now receive 10% less on the amount of reputation and confidence I receive from contracts. I'm not sure this amounts to much, but I felt like doing something. I also noticed I had unlocked a new science experiment, mass spectrometry, which can collect science flying high and in low and high space, but takes a full 2 hours to run. I don't have any vehicles that can take advantage of this, but it is a good thing to take note of for later. In fact, this inspired me to go through all the experiments I have and know where I could be collecting more science. After the U2 mission, I noticed that both my pilots were inactive. Astronauts get a minimum of 3 weeks off after each mission. As such, I can't begin the training for the next mission just yet, though RP-1 does provide this nice button to automatically put an alarm in KERBAL alarm clock letting you know when they'll be ready. Before that could happen, the mature supersonic flight tech node was unlocked. So we get air brakes. We have a whole collection of more powerful jet engines. We have an improvement to our air launch facilities. We're going to purchase that upgrade right now. Purchase that for $1. Oh my gosh. And then we got a whole bunch of engine upgrades to already existing engines. And I'm really looking at the upgrades to the J57. That's really what I want to do. I kind of like upgrading existing engines rather than going to new ones. But if I look here in hypersonic flight, I'm really looking at this X-15 cockpit. Because to finish off the X-Planes program, I need to get crew above the Kármán line, and I believe this can do it. Yeah, it's rated for suborbital re-entries. That means it can go into space. So can I start that research? I can't start the research? No. Oh, I need to get all these lines? In order to go to here, I need to come from here. Yep. Poopy pants. Okay, so, and in order to go from this one, I need satellite ears. So this one's a linchpin one here. So let's get starting researching on that, and I might push it up pretty high in the priority list. So that's satellite era, material science. And to help that research along, I hired 74 more researchers, bringing that staff to a total of 425. Again, as long as I see a positive daily budget balance of at least 100 funds, I'm pretty comfortable doing this. If anything, I'm likely still being too conservative. Either way, this left the road clear for Evelyn Wolf to receive her training, allowing her to take her shot at the 25-kilometer Stratospheric research mission. Oh, it is doing the little angly at... I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that angly at 91. I don't understand that. What we're going to do that's a little different, though, is I'm going to get up to about 12 kilometers, and then we're going to do a slow turnaround. We'll change the heading to 270 degrees. And then that way we'll hopefully not be as far from the KSC. We're at almost 100 kilometers. So what we'll do, take off the heading. Like this at 270. Whoa. Oh, I'm on time warp. That's why that feels so hard. Oh, moderate G's. God dang it. Why does that keep turning off? Oh well. Nothing happened. Nothing came of it. We're all good. So the whole idea of this just did not get too far from the KSC. We're almost at 20 kilometers. Again, the goal here is 25 kilometers. Right back over the KSC. And we'll head out over the Gulf of Mexico. I'm now 20 minutes into the flight, which is the point at which I noticed my fuel issues last time. But, as you can see, I have much more fuel now. I guess it must have been my fussing about with the heading that used up so much fuel. I'm honestly not sure. As I had mentioned, a 25-kilometer altitude is right at the limit of this plane, and I really have to watch my speed, as if it drops much below 230 meters per second, I have trouble generating enough lift to keep climbing, even at this modest 1-degree climb rate. So I need to level off now and again to pick up more speed. I do that by simply turning off the vertical motion controller on the autopilot. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to level off. Yeah, let's level off. Build up speed again. I think I did that at the right time before this started dropping on its own. I want to get this over 230 again. And we'll start doing a little bit of a climb. This was a process I had to cycle through a few times until I was finally approaching that elusive 25-kilometer altitude. Okay. We are at altitude. And we might end up dipping back below, but we'll let the autopilot sort that all out. Okay, now we are above 2,500 and should stay there. And I'm full throttle, no speed control. No, come on. Now it's dipping back below again. The clock resets every time it dips below. Okay, come on. Okay, gotta do this for 5 minutes. Don't dip below again. Come on, Evelyn. And 4 seconds, and done. Okay, there we go. So, engaging the speed control to slow us down. We're over 450 kilometers from the KSC, further than last time. We have a bit more fuel, and this plane can cruise at such a low throttle that getting back to the runway was no problem whatsoever. As for the landing, I've learned to wait until my speed is below 50 meters per second before touching down. That way it stays on the runway. Okay, we got it. Oh my gosh. I was paranoid about running out of runway, but the speed is so low that really isn't a problem for this plane. Either way, contract complete, including the proper landing bonus, But upon going into mission control after recovery, I learned that the third stratospheric research contract requires an altitude of 30 kilometers, clearly beyond the abilities of this plane. But don't forget, I now have unlocked aluminum stringer tanks as well as an upgrade to this plane's J57 engine. However, my engineers in the hangar are already busy working on the upgrades to two other planes, the X4 rocket plane, which you'll be seeing later in this episode, and the F-104 supersonic jet, which should be part of the offerings in the next episode. Not only that, but Launch Complex 2 has also been busy upgrading the V2 Veronique Aerospace stack in an attempt to break the 6,000 kilometer downrange milestone. It was 2 episodes ago that I completed the 5,000 kilometer downrange milestone, and after successfully completing that contract, I immediately set my sights on the 6,000 kilometer milestone. At the time, I had just unlocked early materials science, which provides me with, amongst other things, aluminum stringer tanks, which are much lighter than the aluminum tanks I've been using previously. So I jumped into the vehicle assembly building and just upgraded every tank in the stack to aluminum stringers, and tested the resulting rocket with the exact same launch profile I used before. When I was testing previous rockets, I used McJeb's flight recorder to monitor the downrange distance, but this can only record a limited set of data. Much better is using the mod's Ascent Stats feature, which provides the same function but doesn't run into recording restrictions. Anyway, you can imagine my excitement when this rocket comfortably exceeded 8,000 kilometers downrange. I thought I was all set, tooled the tanks, and began integration of the rocket. Unfortunately, when previously examining the service module, which didn't even need an upgrade, I accidentally removed the required 50 units of sounding payload, which also removed 25 kilograms from the payload mass. This will come up later in this video, but we'll stick a pin in it for now, as despite the success, I wasn't done with this rocket. The second stage Veronique engine requires ullage, provided by 3 small SRBs which were fired on separation. But I've come to feel that this may be unnecessarily complicated and may be responsible for some of the wobble that got induced into the upper stages. So I decided to lose these SRBs and try hot staging. This requires the Veronique to be ignited shortly before the stage below it flames out. Then, when the first stage flames out, I can separate the Veronique and send it on its way. I'm using a smart part to detect when the first stage is low on propellant. You can set at what percentage of fuel remaining in the first stage you want to ignite the Veronique. It's a pretty simple process to keep tweaking this until the second stage engine comes on just before the first stage flames out. On previous rockets, I had used smart part timers to handle the separation, but I think a better option is to instead have my KOS script detect the flaming out of the first stage. For a previous mission, I had already created an auto stage function which waited until the available thrust dropped below some trivial amount, at which point it triggered a staging event. I soon realized this wasn't going to work when hot staging, as the Veronique was still providing thrust after the first engine flamed out. This was solved by first creating a ship TWR function that will return the value of the vessel's current thrust-to-weight ratio. I then added a print statement to my mission program so that I will know what the thrust to weight is after the Veronique is ignited and the first stage is flamed out. It's 0.9, look at that. Okay. So that explains that. I could then get the staging event to trigger when below a TWR that is above 0.9. I think it's good. I think that's good. However, this trigger will only work with this engine on this rocket. To make the function generalized, I represented the cutoff value as a parameter. I then provide the necessary cutoff value when calling the autostage function from the main program. Pleased with how this worked, I used the exact same process for staging the third stage Aerospace rocket, but as mentioned, this wasn't the only vessel I was working on. I also switched the tanks of the X4 rocket plane to lighter aluminum stringers. This was a plane you first saw in episode 15 and is primarily used to beat crude altitude and speed records, as well as record a bit of science. Not one to break a pattern, I dubbed the new plane the X5. To max out the burn time on the engine, I performed a series of static fire tests. During the test, I monitored the mean time between failures on the engine, and when it started dropping dramatically, I knew I had just exceeded what should be the burn time. I then just adjusted the length of the tank accordingly. I honestly don't know why this simple test didn't occur to me sooner. Anyway, that was all in the past, and both vessels are now nearing their completion, starting with the 6,000 kilometer downrange attempt. And oh, I believe I did mention this episode's theme earlier in the video. Alright, so 6,000 kilometers downrange. Oh, oh no, it have 50 units of sounding payload on the craft. Is there not 50 units of sounding payload on the craft? Please don't tell me there's not 50 units of... How did I end up not with 50 units of sounding payload on this craft? Well, thankfully I noticed this before the launch, so I could just recover the vessel back to the VAB, which only takes a little over a week. But during that time, another tech node unlocked, Avionics Prototypes, which provides upgrades to both the science and near-Earth avionic packages. And oh, was it tempting to incorporate these avionics into the V2 stack once it was recovered. But it would have added a bunch of time to the refit. Definitely something to consider for later, but right now I just wanted to add my 50 units of sounding payload and roll this guy back out to the launch pad. And just as a reminder, this is the 6,000 kilometer downrange milestone contract. Exactly the same as the 5,000 kilometers. My ascent profile is the same. All that is the same. The only difference is now we got to get to 6,000 kilometers downrange instead of 5,000 kilometers downrange. I am also expecting this rocket to crack the 1,000 kilometer uncrewed altitude record. Not only is the design of this rocket essentially the same as the one that flew 5,000 kilometers downrange, but the ascent profile is the same too. The only thing that is different is the switch to aluminum stringer tanks and the changes I made to how the staging works, which I do find to be a lot cleaner than it was before, but why don't you be the judge of that, as we are coming up to our first staging event. Okay, there's the spin up, and you can see how that Vernique engine was already going, and now we are on to the next stage, and I find that's just a much smoother and cleaner separation than what we got before. Again, no separation motors here. And of course, a short time later, it was the Aerobee's turn. Ignore the batteries. There, Aerobee, and let it go. I think it's much cleaner. And a cleaner, less wonky flight, I think, turns into greater efficiency as well. Now, I did not test this again after adding the 50 units of sounding payload, which, remember, adds 25 kilograms to the mass of this payload. So it won't be going as far as it did in simulation, but considering it exceeded the mission objective by over 2,000 kilometers, I figured we should be good. Our first indicator will be whether the apogee will exceed 1,000 kilometers again. 700, 800, 9, oh, nope, not quite 1,000, so we're not going to get to this one. Okay, that's cool. And again, what I really, really do like to see is, are we going to be over the halfway point for the downrange distance when we get to apoapsis? That always makes me feel good. Okay, here we go. We are very close to apoapsis. We're over 3,000 kilometers downrange. That is a very good sign, though I got to be honest, it turned out to be closer than I had anticipated. We are back in the atmosphere again. 59, 59, 86. Come on. Oh, there it is. There's the 6,000 kilometers. So we got the contract. Contract is complete. This can blow up now, but not by much. We're still keeping track of the downrange here. We're not going to get past much. I must have tested it with just the without sounding payload aboard. That's amazing how that makes life easier, doesn't it? Okay, that is that. Anyway, contract complete. Good, good, good. But we are not done yet. After all, we have a theme going. Okay, Z, 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 and go. Pitch up. Why? What happened? Oh no, we got some sort of launch. The engine failed to ignite. Oh dear, this is not good. So we got some sort of ignition failure. This isn't a fuel issue. No, we got an ignition failure. Stinker. Alright, that's part of the package. We are unfortunately, let's level off. Let's just get some level flight going here. Actually, let's just change this climb angle to 5 degrees. Oh boy. Do that. We will keep the heading where it is. And, yeah, keep the altitude. Good. Okay, heading that. Yeah, okay. While that's coasting along, we're picking up some speed. That's good. We need to think about how the heck is going to get kind of in home. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Lock that on the waypoint. Runway angle is 2. I would love to save the plane. That's what I would love to do. I just don't know if that's going to be a doable thing. Oh boy, we are picking up some speed. Can we glide that far? 330 kilometers. Can you glide that far, Kenneth? That would be a no. Though I gave it the college try, it soon became clear that this was going to turn into a water ditch. Alternatively, Kevin could bail, but I would like to make an attempt at saving the plane if I can. After all, this is the inaugural flight of the X5, and I would really like to give this another go without having to rebuild. I did quick save, so if this goes badly, I'll just revert and bail out our pilot. The idea, of course, is to hit the water at as low a speed as possible, but this thing is hardly a glider, and there will come a time at which I can no longer stay aloft. Under 100 meters per second. And basically, I just want to stall on top of the water. We'll come back up. Come back up. See, now you get a feel. This is not time warp. We are going fast. We are going fast. And all these waves, they catch the water, and oh my gosh. Okay, gotta stop talking. Stop talking. Okay, pitching up hard, and that's just it. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Is the plane actually intact? I think it is. Kenneth, you are a rock star. Okay, let's recover. Back to the spaceplane hangar, where it took our Navy 19 days to fish the X5 out of the Atlantic, and then after another 6 days mounting it to the carrier, it was time for Evelyn Wolf to give this a go. I do have some contracts. First, a crude altitude record of 70 kilometers, and the next X-Planes high altitude contract. So this is again just reach 70 kilometers and land. So it's kind of the same as these two contracts are really kind of the same thing, aren't they? We are going to be collecting some science for whatever it's worth. We do have the high altitude science that doesn't click in till 40 kilometers, so, which we're pretty darn close at now. But basically, we want to get up over 70 kilometers. I've set this at 75 kilometers because that is the ceiling for this cockpit. Once I'm above 75 kilometers, my pilot has trouble breathing. After what just happened with this plane previously, I decided to drop Evelyn only 150 kilometers away from the KSC rather than the 350 kilometers Kevin started from. That way, if she had had another ignition failure, she would have been able to make it to the runway. However, this will have her going past the KSC, but that's okay. We'll just turn around on our way back down. Our apoapsis is like 74. We're leveling off now. Nicey nice. Again, collecting lots and lots of science, hopefully. There we go, that's it. We are over 70, that is that one. And here we're over 70, but we still have to land somewhere. So basically, that's about the end of it. So we can start coming back down. Now, we do not have really much in the way of attitude control, and that's despite the much larger elevators I put on this thing. Oh, we are getting some warnings. We creeped over 75 kilometers. Okay, but why don't we set this, I don't know, 12 kilometers? Pitch back down 40, sure, why not? It really can't do it. And I do have the G-force limit on. Yes, I do. So this will start pitching. It's just we have very little attitude control. That's the issue. Okay, we're below 75 kilometers, so Evelyn's having a ball. Having a ball. Of course, she's completely weightless through all of this. Until the air starts getting thicker, this plane is going to pretty much follow a parabolic path. While I descend, I'm watching my angle to the runway, as if it gets too low, I'm once again going to have trouble making it to the runway. Angle to the runway is now 12 degrees. I do not want to try and turn at this speed. Oh, we are getting heating things. We are getting heating things. That is on... Oh, it's on these little and fake antennas that I put at the end of the wings, I think. We want to turn around, but I want to slow down first. What do you think, Evelyn? Should we try and go turn around? I think we can turn around. I do have the G-force limit. Let's take the flaps off. And let's click on the waypoint and turn around. You crazy, crazy lady, you. Our angle to the runway is only 3 degrees now. Went a little further. Should probably have done it further away, like 200 kilometers. Might have been better. Yep, either I should have started turning sooner or have air launched from further away at the start of this, but I'm not going to make it to the runway. That said, let's not discount that Evelyn did get herself towards the edge of space, the absolute limit for this cockpit. If I want to go higher, I'm going to need better tech. But right now, I need to concentrate on the fact that I'm coming down about 33 kilometers short of the runway. Yeah, deploy the parachute. Come on, where are you, parachute? Don't do this to me again, parachute. You were working before. Well, that was on the X4, though, wasn't it? Shoot. Okay. Let's flaps. Parachute's not working again. Okay, we're okay. Brakes, brakes, brakes. Okay. Of all the times I needed a parachute, that was a good time to need a parachute, but I think Evelyn did good. You did good, Evelyn. That is enough to satisfy the contract, even though I didn't get the landing on the runway bonus. And with that, I'm going to be drawing this episode to a close. I hope that you enjoyed it, and that I'll be seeing you again for the next one.